Usually, when you think about pure mathematics, you picture like chalk dust and isolated geniuses.
Oh, yeah. Totally abstract theories, just completely disconnected from the real world.
Exactly. But then when you think about your 6G internet connection, you picture routers, fiber optics, applied engineering. Well, today in this duck dive, those two universes are violently colliding.
They really are. It's wild. Telecom engineers are literally weaponizing 6G network architecture to try and solve the Riemann hypothesis.
Right, which is that 160-year-old mystery about the fundamental architecture of prime numbers.
Exactly. And adopting this entirely alien, physical perspective might actually be the key to unlocking the whole puzzle.
Okay, let's unpack this because the curvature variable physics framework, specifically the Dillon framework, it didn't even start in a math department, did it?
No, not at all. It originated in applied physics for next generation 6G and 7G network architectures, specifically for something called the Internet of Bio-Nano Things.
Wait, the Internet of Bio-Nano Things?
Yeah, I know it sounds like sci-fi. Just think of microscopic sensors transmitting data inside the human body.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right, and to make that work, engineers use this concept called toroidal refractance. Toroidal basically just means donut-shaped.
Like a microscopic donut.
Exactly. Imagine a signal traveling over that microscopic donut surface. Its speed and behavior actually change depending on whether it's moving along the outer edge or the inner curve.
So, like, fundamental constants aren't actually constant?
Right. They literally bend based on the local geometry.
Okay, so I get how waves bounce around a curved 6G network, but how on earth do you map physical wave physics onto pure prime numbers?
Well, that is the genius of the transposition. They treat prime numbers as the signals. So the primes create mathematical compression, almost like data packets.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and then they take the famous zeta zeros, which are these really critical data points in the Riemann hypothesis, and they treat those as the refractance geometries.
Wait, so the zeros act exactly like those curved donut surfaces, bending the mathematical signals as they pass through?
You nailed it. That is exactly what they do.
So it's kind of like using a blueprint for a fiber optic network to, I don't know, tune a grand piano or something.
That's a great functional way to look at it. And just like tuning a piano, the entire framework is constantly hunting for perfect equilibrium.
Which, in this theory, only exists on what mathematicians call the critical line.
Right. They call this state of perfect balance harmonic silence. It's this ideal scenario where all these mathematical oscillations just perfectly cancel each other out.
But what happens if the system is out of tune? Like, say, one of those zeta zeros actually falls off that critical line.
Well, what's fascinating here is the geometry of how it falls apart. Because of built-in symmetries in the math, if a single zero shifts off the line, it instantly fractures into a 4-point rectangular shape.
A rectangle.
Yeah, and this rectangle is wildly unstable. It triggers what they call a rigidity cascade.
Ah, right, a cascade across 3 specific channels: curvature, persistence, and symmetry. But how does that actually break the math?
Think of it like thermodynamic stress in a physical engine. Okay? First, the curvature or the mathematical energy inflates uncontrollably because the waves just aren't canceling out anymore.
Right, the harmonic silence is completely gone.
Exactly, and that leads to persistence. The mathematical waves survive across scales way too strongly. It creates a feedback loop that causes irreconcilable data leaks.
Man, that sounds catastrophic.
It is, because finally the symmetry snaps. It creates this tangible tension that basically blows up the entire mathematical system.
So what does this all mean? Because honestly, if I am a traditional number theorist hearing about thermodynamic stress and engines blowing up, I'm probably screaming that this is just pure science fiction.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the creators anticipated that exact reaction. To keep the math rigorous and avoid, circular logic, the framework uses an admissibility constitution.
An admissibility constitution.
Yeah, it's a strict set of rules that permanently banishes all those poetic concepts to a non-mathematical visionary layer.
Oh, so terms like harmonic silence or that symbolic label they use, omega 88.
Exactly. None of that is allowed in the actual analytical proof. It's strictly partitioned.
Okay, I see the guardrails, but I do have to push back here. The framework admits to a pretty massive vulnerability, right? They call it metaphor without mathematics.
Yeah, that is the big sticking point.
Because they have to heavily smooth out the erratic, messy data of prime numbers just to measure this curvature energy. If they fail to rigorously control that analytic smoothing, aren't the error bounds going to completely swallow the results?
That is a very real concern.
I mean, isn't this rigidity cascade just statistical noise dressed up as physics?
Well, if the mathematical smoothing creates error bounds wider than the microscopic defect they're trying to measure, then yes, the rigidity signal is completely drowned out.
Right. It just becomes noise.
Exactly. The theoretical scaffolding is breathtaking. I mean, it really is. But unless they can control those bounds, the analytical proof just won't survive classical mathematical scrutiny.
So it really is a monumental, if fragile, attempt to unify the geometry of applied physics with pure analytic number theory.
Very fragile. But it proves to you that the most intractable problems often require shattering disciplinary boundaries entirely.
Definitely. It forces us to look at an ancient sequence of numbers through this dynamic, hyper-modern lens.
Which is incredibly exciting even with the flaws.
It is. And that leaves you with one final thought to mull over. The framework uses something called a catastrophe surface to model this mathematical failure as a physical singularity, like a literal blow-up wall.
Right.
So if the sequence of prime numbers actually collapses under the exact same thermodynamic rules as physical spacetime, if it collapses under those exact same physical rules, does that mean the universe is built on arithmetic? Or is arithmetic just a physical property of the universe?